Welcome to the Chief Architect Kitchen Remodel Seminar. In this video, I'll cover the process to remodel this as-built kitchen and transform it into the space you see on your screen. I'll go through modifying the floor plan, updating dimensions, vaulting the ceiling, updating the doors and windows, and then adding the new cabinets and appliances with the detailed wall elevations. Finally, I'll cover how to create different options using the Style Palette tool. Let's go into the program and get started with the Kitchen Remodel Seminar. As I start the remodel seminar, I have the as-built drawing open, and you can see the floor plan, and if I toggle over to the 3D view, you can see what we look like in 3D. What the client wants to do is expand this area for the kitchen and make it much larger, open up the stairwell and also make it much larger. As we go back to the floor plan, I've written down these client requirements using a layer set underneath my floor plan that basically lays out what we're going to do in the project. So we're going to increase the size of the kitchen. We're going to place a large kitchen island. I'm going to add a living alcove and a new pantry down in this area down in here, as well as a new fireplace, and then open up the stairwell. If you look at the completed floor plan, this is what we'll get to in the seminar, and then when you take a look at it in the 3D view, you can see the new space, and then if I toggle on my reference display, you can see the previous space with the expansion down towards the bottom of the screen and also what we've done with the stairwell. So let's go in and begin the process. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this floor plan that is the as-built and I'm going to save it as the remodel project. Good practice. You go out in the field, you get your as-built measurements, you save that plan as the as-built, and then you can save it as the remodel project and then do the work. You can also then superimpose the two plans over one another and show the as-built and the remodel conditions. I'm going to go ahead and save this project using the Save As function, and I'm simply going to name it the Remodel Project. I'll go ahead and clean up a couple of the other views here. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this segment of the wall and I'm going to actually pull it back to the outer edge where I've got the new expansion superimposed. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the wall, and there's a break tool you're going to find in your lower edit menu. I'm going to click a break right in this intersection right in here. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side and click a break right in this area as well. Now as I move this wall out, there are some other elements inside of that wall, and I'm going to hold my shift key down and draw a marquee around that entire segment so I make sure I get all of those components. I'm just going to simply pull this down until I get approximately to the outside of this outline. Then I'm going to select the wall, and using the diamond on each end of the wall, that will extend that wall back towards the house. I'll go ahead and pull it back this way, use my snap indicator so that it lines up on the inside of the wall right in this area. I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side of the wall, and I'm going to actually shape it around the area for the fireplace and also the expanded pantry. So I'm just using the diamond tool on the wall and pulling it back to create that space. Again, I might make sure that that's squared up on the outside. I'm going to take this pantry wall, pull it down so that we have a larger pantry, and then I'm going to also take the wall that's on the inside of the kitchen, go ahead and pull that back until it then aligns. And again, I might use that alignment tool to make sure that that snaps exactly where it is. Now I'm ready to place my dimensions. I'm going to switch my plan view to the floor plan view where I place my dimensions. So let's switch that to the floor plan saved view. And now I'm going to place the dimensions, and I'm going to use a tool called the Automatic Exterior Dimensions. And now I'm going to make one adjustment on these dimensions. I'm going to come down and select the outermost wall, move over until my mouse changes, tap on the dimension. In this case, I'm going to make that exactly 18 feet. Now that's about the extent of the major wall changes that I'm going to make on the plan. Let's go ahead and use our 3D overview camera. I'm going to actually use this camera called the Perspective Floor Overview. Now when you use this camera, you can see the roof and all of the components that make up the structure. I'm going to make a few changes in here to the roof. In this plan, my roof is set to automatically rebuild, so any changes I make to the walls, the roof automatically adapts to it. Let's make a couple of changes. On this outer wall, I'm going to go ahead and change that using the Convert to Gable wall tool. Click that. It will change that wall to a gable tool. I'm going to rotate around and I'm going to make that exact same change on this wall over here. Change that. Again, change to gable wall, and you'll see the update right away. Now for this space, the client wants to have a vaulted ceiling. As you can tell, that roof structure doesn't really lend itself to be a vault. What I'm going to do is I want to create a shed roof that will basically go from the left side of this wall and extend up. That means the two side walls right in this area on this wall, come over, hold my shift key down, select this wall, will need to change. I don't have the same tool down in my toolbar that says Convert to Shed. But what I can do is I can use this Open button in the far left-hand corner of my screen. I'll come down on the wall. There's a roof panel. You'll notice that the different roofs that I can change are down in here. I'm going to go ahead and select that this is a high shed gable wall. And when we close the dialog, you're going to notice that we created a high shed wall pretty easily. Now the next thing that we do is let's go ahead and zoom inside and take a look at the space. You'll notice that there is a flat ceiling. Ceilings are automatically created in the program to be flat. We want to create an open space in here. I'm simply going to click on the floor, come over here, click on the Open button, and then I'm going to go up to the structure panel for this room. There's an option to remove the ceiling out of the room. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the flat ceiling, and now you can see the change. Now what's happening here is you might notice that there's an extra vault right in this area, and I want to actually remove that. I'm going to have to draw a custom ceiling plane. I'm also going to want to make a change to this wall right in here because I want to have this be open. Let's go ahead and select this wall and the far left wall, and let's go ahead and use the same Open button. On the general panel for this wall, I'm actually going to mark that it's a railing wall, and you'll notice if I go down to the newels and balusters, you can actually set the height of that wall for the railing. And if you wanted to put a wall cap on the top of it, I could come over here, open up the library, browse down to the appropriate level, grab a cap, put that on top of the wall. And when you make the change, you'll see that that opens up the space. Now for that custom ceiling, let's do that in our floor plan view. You're going to find one of the tools that we have available is a custom ceiling plane. Using this tool, I'm going to come on the inside of the wall, just click and drag up, come over to the other side. Once I snap to the wall, I'll go ahead and then pull it across the entire part of the structure. That's created a custom ceiling plane. If you were to open this up by double clicking on it, you'll notice that the pitch came in at the same pitch as the roof. You can also make adjustments. If you were to lock this pitch, you can lock what the height of it is and change also the ridge value. So if you're doing some custom work, you can also set that up. You can also come down here and curve it if you wanted to curve that as well. Now when I return back into the 3D view, I've created the custom ceiling. You no longer see the vault that's being created by the roof. Now one final change that we'll make inside of the floor plan is to take these walls for the stairwell, and we'll open those up. Let's take one more 3D view that's separate called the perspective floor overview. And I want to take these walls that form that stairwell and I want to make them railings as well. Again, I'm going to click on both of those walls, hold my shift key down, grab both of those walls, use the Open button, and I'm going to make the same change, making them a railing. My default railing wall is set up to be a railing. It's also in my interior railing default. Now you can see that we've opened up the plan quite significantly. We reduced the wall height in here and we added the additional space for the alcove for the kitchen, and then we created a space over here that we're going to use for an added pantry. You might notice that this wall type in here is using the exterior wall. Let's go ahead and open that up and make that change. That was the original exterior wall. I'm going to double click to open it up. I'm just going to come over to the wall types panel and I'm going to change it from the exterior siding to an interior 4 wall. And when we close the dialog, you'll notice that it changes and updates that as well. Now the next thing we want to do is I want to take a look at modifying this end wall. If I go back into my overview camera, really what I want to do for this overview wall is I want to create a set of windows that will go up here, and as I rotate over to the side, I also want to put a nice sliding door in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the elevation camera tool, and let's take an elevation of this wall so we can easily make those changes. One of the elevation cameras is just called the cross-section elevation. All you need to do is point and click to create that elevation view. In the elevation view, let's go ahead and click on the door, press the delete key, and I want to take these windows, post, and the beam that is above them, and I want to create a series of copies of those, two more, and pull those down the wall. I'm going to go ahead and click on the beam, hold my shift key down, click on the window, hold my shift key down, click on post. With all three objects selected, I'm going to come over and use the multiple copy tool, click on this tool, then I'm going to move over and select the copy interval. I've already got a setting in here of 51 1/4, which will cover the window. I'm going to also use that same setting down here for the beams. Now when I use that tool, I'll move my cursor back over the window. Notice how it changes to the multiple copy icon, and now when I slide that over, it will then copy those objects using that value that I put in here. Now the next thing I want to do is put a series of windows that will stack on top of the larger windows and have them follow the shape of the roof. I'm going to go ahead and select this window, move down into the lower edit menu, grab the copy tool, and we're just going to pull this up until it's approximately at the bottom of that upper beam. Let's go ahead and pull this down quite a ways. Open up the window by double clicking on it. On the general panel, you can make any adjustments you need to. Notice that the width, the height, floor to bottom or floor to top can be set. I'm going to come over to the shape panel, and I'm going to use this setting, match roof. You'll notice the shape updates over in the preview panel. You can always rotate around and see the difference if you have different casing on those. And I'm going to also make the adjustment on the frame. The bottom of the frame, let's go ahead and set that to be 1/2 inch so it matches the rest of the windows. I'm going to take that window and I'm going to use the same multiple copy. Our interval is already set at 51 1/4. Let's go ahead and use the multiple copy. We'll pull 3 more copies of that window over. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go back into the floor plan view and I'm going to place a beam that will go right below that roof edge. Let's go back over to the floor plan view. Then I'm going to come over. You'll find one of the tools underneath of the framing is a roof beam. Let's go ahead and draw this roof beam right across the wall. And I'm just going to snap it onto the edge. Make sure that that layer is turned on in this view. We'll go ahead and highlight the beam. You can use the center tool if you want to center that over the wall. You'll get a visual indicator so it's exactly centered over that wall. If you double click on it, like all the components in here, you can change all the settings you want to with this particular object. My default beam is at 12 inches, 9 1/4 inches wide. It's also a glulam. All of those settings look fine. When you go back into your elevation view, I have a little bit of busy work to do. I'll just click on each one of these windows, pull it up until it touches that beam. Grab this window again, pull this up. A lot of times I'll have my crosshairs on as I'm doing that. If I toggle those on, it makes it easier to check the alignment of those objects. For the purpose of this video, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Do the same thing for the posts. I'll just pull this up until we see it and then just do the rest of it here pretty quickly. Now that we have the modifications done to the beams, posts, and windows, let's go over into our 3D view and take a look. Now the first thing you're going to notice is we have a gaping hole inside of the wall. Chances are that layer for beams and posts isn't being displayed in this 3D view. I'm going to come over here into my menu system on the right hand side, and I'm going to turn on my active display and just do a search for beams. Make sure that I've turned on all of the different beams that I want, and then we'll also turn on the post layer. We can turn that layer on and see the display. Now that those are on, let's go ahead and rotate around. The next thing I want to do is I want to add a sliding door in this area. Let's come up to the door tool, come down to sliding door. I'm going to come over and click and place the door. My sliding door defaults are set up to have 3 different panels. Let's go in, double click on this object, and take a look at the settings in here. On the options panel, I'm going to come over and I'm going to make an adjustment from 3 panels on the right and make that 4 panels. Again, as you make the change, you'll see the preview update, either interior or exterior. If you're making changes that affect those, you can always rotate around and make the changes. The sizing of this is okay. We've got it at 108 in width and then 98. Seems like an odd value for this. Let's go ahead and set that to be 96 for height. Make the adjustment, and then we'll go ahead and see what we look like in 3D. Again, you can always move this, resize it if you need to in this view. I'll hit the escape key. That's a good size, and I'm going to pull it back just a little bit. You can update your dimensions and position exactly in your floor plan view if we were to return back. You'll notice that my automatic dimensions we placed earlier are not picking up the centers for those objects. That's a setting you can make an adjustment for. If I were to make that adjustment in the defaults, you'll find that setting underneath specifically for the automatic exterior dimensions. For locate objects, you can simply come down, mark that it's openings, control how you'd like to have those openings dimensioned, and then when you run your dimensions, it will then pick up the openings for those objects. And then to make the adjustment, you can simply come over here and type in a value that you want to have that position. Now I've created all of the structural changes that I'm going to make for this remodel project. I'm going to move on and place cabinets against this upper wall where I'm going to place the refrigerator, and then on the side wall where I'm going to place the cook range. I'm going to do this in a combination of floor plan, 3D, and wall elevation views. Let's begin by changing our saved plan view from the floor plan to the kitchen and bath and turn off layers that are not needed. I'm also going to clean up my view here a little bit. And I'm going to begin by using the wall elevation tool. You'll find this tool underneath the elevation cameras. With the wall elevation camera, I'm just going to simply come in here and click and drag right through that upper wall. The wall elevation camera isolates the view for a specific wall, making it easy to do your design work for that space. I'm going to begin the process by opening up the library catalog. You'll find a link over on the right hand side of my screen. Library catalogs available in Chief Architect include our core catalogs, which we'll install when you first initiate the software, and then the bonus and manufacturer catalogs. You can go out to the Chief Architect 3D library and download these items. There's also a user catalog that you can create copies of your favorite items and even build your own specific objects. I'm going to begin this wall with a refrigerator, and let's open up the finished portion of this wall and take a look. I'm going to begin with the refrigerator, place a couple of cabinets, then I'll move on and place the wine cabinet and then a cabinet for the coffee station, and then the final cabinet on the far right hand side will be rotated 90 degrees and actually protrude through the wall on the other side for the mudroom access for a storage closet. Let's begin by placing the refrigerator on this wall. Many times I will place one of the most important objects such as the cook range or refrigerator and then do the design around that. As I place this refrigerator, I'm going to use the tool for placing the dimensions. It's called the NKBA Auto Elevation Dimensions. It stands for the National Kitchen and Bath Association. When you use this tool, it will place the dimensions on your wall and include the center line in this case for fixtures and appliances. You can tap on the object, move your cursor or mouse over the top of the dimension, click on it, and in this case I'm going to set it to be 72 inches, press the enter key, and that will now position that refrigerator and I can do my design work around it. Now I'm going to place a full height cabinet off to the left hand side of that refrigerator. You'll find our cabinet tools up in the menu. I'm going to just go ahead and pull that over, bump it up to the refrigerator. With the cabinet placed, I'm going to double click, open it up. I'm going to click on this bottom face item and I want to make a few changes. To begin with, I'm going to use this split horizontal and create an additional face item. I'm going to move down to the bottom face item. I'm going to change that to be a type of a drawer. And then I'm going to use the split one more time. And now I'm going to work from the bottom up, and I'm going to size each one of these face items. I'm going to begin at the very bottom, and I'm going to actually delete the separation at the very bottom. On the drawer, I'll set that to be 14 inches. On the horizontal separation, I'm actually going to change that to be a blank area. I want it to match the refrigerator panel next to it, and then I'm going to set that to be 1/2 inch. Do the same thing for the next drawer, set it to be 14 inches. On the separation, again, set that to be a blank area. I'm doing that so it will match the refrigerator. And then on the door, I'm going to go ahead and set that to be 50 inches and 5/8. Go ahead and press the Tab key. You get a preview of it. And then when we go back into the wall elevation, you can see that using those face items, it has matched up exactly to the existing panel refrigerator. I'm going to go ahead and select the object, use the copy tool, slide a copy of it. Notice how my cursor changes to the fourplex. Slide it over. You can always bump those cabinets together. Now let's place one more full height cabinet on the right hand side of the refrigerator. We'll click and place this, bump it over. If you have your temporary dimensions turned on, you can see the temporary dimensions. If you need to make sizing changes to it, you can easily do that in this view just simply by clicking on it. Our cabinets in Chief Architect bump in 3-inch increments. You can set it to the nearest 1/16 of an inch for custom cabinets. Now in this cabinet, as I double click to open it up, I'm going to go ahead and click on the face item in the upper portion. I'm going to use the split horizontal. On this new component in here, I'm going to change that face item type to an appliance, and then I'm going to browse out and specify which appliance that I want. And I'm going to actually type in a specific part number. This is a manufacturer product that I'm aware of. I'm going to go ahead and choose this specific coffee station. You'll see the setting of it right in here. I'm going to change the height of this to be 18 inches. And then on the upper door, I'm going to go ahead and change that to be 38. Let's go ahead and set that to be 38.5 inches. And you may notice that I've used a pretty wide cabinet here. Let's go over to the general panel. I'm going to change the width of this cabinet to be 27 inches. You see a preview of this cabinet once we've made the changes. I actually want to force those doors to be single doors. In Chief Architect, when your cabinet becomes 26 inches and wider, our parametric doors change to be a double door. You can always change that face item inside of the cabinet dialog. Notice the auto door will change for you as compared to when you use a door left or a door right. And I'm going to go ahead and use a right door on both the upper face item and this lower face item, forcing the swing to be a right door. Now for the next wall cabinet, I'm going to place it over here. This is somewhat of a unique design that I'm working on. I'm going to place the wall cabinet just next to the coffee station. And now I'm going to go back into the floor plan view, and I'm actually going to rotate and size this. Now for that cabinet, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then I'm going to go ahead and resize it. Remember, our cabinets bump in 3-inch increments. You can also override bumping and snapping. On a PC, hold down your Control key. On a Mac, it's hold down the Command key. I'm going to just pull that out just a little bit. Double click on the cabinet. You'll be able to see that that dimension that we just changed is actually slightly smaller than 33 inches. Let's go ahead and make that a round number at 31 1/8. So you can be very specific on your dimensions for your cabinets and not be restricted to those 3-inch increments. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to place a wine refrigerator over in this area. And to begin with, I'm going to actually place a 1-inch filler right against this wall. You'll find fillers underneath of our build menu. Come down to cabinet fillers, and I'm going to place a 1-inch filler. Let's just place it right in the middle of this. And sometimes when these objects are pretty small, it's more difficult to resize them. So I'm just going to double click on it. I'm going to go ahead and type in the 1 inch for the width of it. I'm going to leave the other dimension settings that should match my default full height cabinet. and then I'll just go ahead and slide that over and snap that into the wall. Let's come back over into my library, and I want to look for our wine refrigerator. Notice that I've saved one of the favorites that I use into my own library. I put the part number on the end of it so I'm familiar with whose brand that is. Let's just come over here, and I'm going to click and place that wine refrigerator over here. And now let's go back into our elevation view so we can place the wall cabinets that will go above both the wine refrigerator and the regular refrigerator. You'll find the wall cabinets underneath our parent cabinet tool. Come in here, click to place the wall cabinet. Sometimes it's a little difficult when you have an existing tight space, and you may need to move your mouse around until you get a ghost outline of where that is, and then you can click and place that cabinet. Now you're going to notice my default wall cabinet is very tall in this case, and we need to go ahead and resize it. Let's pull it down, and then let's just open it up and make a few changes in here. Now you can open this cabinet either by double clicking your mouse button. There's also an open object for all elements you have selected in your lower edit menu. Well, let's check our sizing: width, height, depth. Let's set this to be 24 inches for the depth. And let's make sure the floor to top is exactly the same as the other cabinets. I'll go ahead and enter in 108. And then I want to change the face item from a regular hinged door to maybe a hopper door. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to look for a hinge top face item. And then I want to also change the hardware for this component. Much like we added the appliance down here, the change for appliance, door, and drawer will also allow you to change your hardware on here. I'm going to come over to the door handle, browse out to the library, and I want something that's horizontal. And as I browse into the library, I'm going to go ahead and grab the hardware component that I think looks pretty good. You can see the change of it, and I need to actually work on the center of it. What I can do for that handle is in from edge. If you actually put a 0 in there, that will center that hardware component. Go ahead and close that. And then the last thing I'm going to do for this cabinet is there's a light rail molding on the bottom of it. I'm going to come over to the molding components, find that light rail, and just simply remove it. Now I'm going to change the material on that cabinet. I want to use a rainwater glass, so I'm going to type that in, find it in our library, and then once I've located that material, I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to make sure I spray that in component mode so that the rainwater glass will only go on the component mode. There's object mode, room mode, so you can control those with your material painter. And now that I've got that cabinet set up the way I want, I'm going to actually create a copy of it by clicking on this, using the copy tool, come over here, click paste, and then I'm simply going to bump that cabinet side to side and position it right above the refrigerator. Now you may notice this hardware on this cabinet is pretty small. Let's go ahead and go back into the library, and I'm going to open up my cabinet hardware. I'm just going to find a longer pole, and you can actually spray these on in 3D. So you notice the replace icon, and you just spray it on in there. That looks much better. Let's go ahead and update our dimensions. We'll come down here, use the auto NKBA auto elevation dimensions. And I noticed that the cabinet we put our coffee station in is probably a little bit too long, and I can probably get away with 24 inches. Notice the dimensions are automatically updating to it. I'm going to go ahead and snap this other cabinet back into the other cabinet, and I'm pretty much finished with this wall elevation. You can go through and clean up these dimensions. It could be that the centerline dimension that was placed up here is simply repeating at the bottom. You can easily delete those. You can click on these dimensions, maybe this extension line, and pull these up. If you turn on your crosshairs, I have a hotkey to toggle that on and off pretty quickly. You could use this to align your center lines in here and then clean it up a little bit. If you take a look at my finished wall elevation, you can see that I've added a few more dimensions in here and some note callouts. Now, as we've been adding cabinets into the design, Chief Architect keeps a schedule of all of your materials. In this case, if we were to go over and open up the project browser over here on the far right hand side of my screen, you'll find a list of schedules. The template plan that I've opened actually has a cabinet schedule already created. You can come down to that cabinet schedule, and when you open it up, you can see all of the components in this cabinet schedule. In this case, I have a 3D representation of it in the far left-hand column. These can be customized however you'd like and also moved around. So if you want to move these around and renumber them, maybe you want to take this filler and pull it down to the bottom, you can very easily manage this. All of these schedules, if you double click on them, can be customized. You can add different columns. You can restrict what shows up in these schedules. And there's different attribute and a few other settings in here that you can then customize the way this looks. Okay, let's go ahead and clean up a few of these views. The next thing that I want to do is I'm going to save this elevation camera that I've been working on that has the annotations of the dimensions. We'll go ahead and save this. And now let's move on and do this sidewall. I'm going to begin the process actually in 3D. Let's take a look using the perspective floor overview. In this 3D view, let me go ahead and zoom in to this back wall, and let's begin by placing our base cabinets. Using the base cabinet tool, I'm going to come over here and click and place the base cabinet. You'll notice that we have temporary dimensions being displayed, and just like in the wall elevation, I can easily resize this to be a 30-inch cabinet. Double click and open up this cabinet. I'm going to go ahead and click on the drawer face item and remove that. I'll go ahead and place one more base cabinet right next to the existing one, resize it to 30 inches, open it up, and I want to create a bank of 3 drawers. I'll go ahead and click on the set of double doors, come over to the face item type, change it to a drawer, and then I'm going to use the split horizontal. That will create the bank of 3 drawers. Now I want to slide these 2 cabinets against the full height cabinet, but I do want to put a filler right in here. Let's do that in our floor plan view. I find placing these smaller items a little bit easier in different views, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the base filler. We'll go ahead and click and place that. I want to resize that to be 2 inches wide. We'll just make that change in the width to be 2 inches. And now I can simply bump that right against the full height cabinet. We'll grab the 2 base cabinets and go ahead and bump those against the filler. For the wall cabinets, I'm also going to place a 2-inch filler right in here. Let's go back up into the build menu and use the wall filler. We'll place it over here so you can easily see it. Again, open this filler up, and I'm going to make a change on the width to make it also 2 inches. And we'll go ahead and bump that right against that same full height cabinet. Now in the 3D view, I'm going to place a wall cabinet right in this area. We'll make some modifications to it. So let's go ahead and place that wall cabinet, double click and open it up. And I'm going to change the height of this cabinet to be 54 inches. On the face item, I'm going to split that horizontally. I'm going to set the item height for this door to be 15 inches. And I'm also going to make this a hopper style door. So we'll select the hinge from top. And like we did for the cabinet above the refrigerator and the wine fridge, let's come in, change the hardware style. I'll choose the same medium horizontal pull. Using the adjustment in from edge as 0, we'll center that object. And to differentiate, I am going to want to have this upper door to be glass. I'm going to make a change in here just so that it is different, and then I can mark that it is glass. We'll go ahead and close the dialog. With that change in place, let's go ahead and use our material eyedropper. We'll pick up the rainwater glass on the cabinet, go ahead and spray it onto this cabinet, and I think I have most of the changes in place. Let's go ahead and bump that over. I notice that my filler in here, I do need to adjust that to also be 54 inches. Let's go ahead and open that up and make that same height to be 54 inches. With those changes in place, let's make a copy of this wall cabinet. Select it, come down, use the copy tool in the lower edit menu, slide a copy over. Again, cabinets will bump next to one another and form countertops or join the crown molding. I'm going to select this cabinet, And I'm going to resize it to be 27 inches. We'll snap that in the 3-inch increment. I now have a 30-inch cabinet and a 27-inch cabinet. Next, I want to place the range in the cook hood. I'm going to come over into the library. I know the particular model of the induction range I want to use. I'll go ahead and enter that. Use the search tool, and let's go ahead and click and place this. Notice that I get the ghost outline before I click and place. That will bump to the cabinet. When it bumps there, I'll then click. Let's clear our search. I'm going to go back into the library and I'm going to find a cook hood. I have one saved in my favorites. Click and place it. A lot of times I like to place those objects and then use the center tool in the lower edit menu. Center object. Come over here, find the cook range, center it. I now know those two objects are exactly one over the other. Now I'm going to go ahead and select the base cabinet, hold my shift key down, grab both of those and both of the upper wall cabinets. Use the copy tool in the lower edit menu, copy, and then reflect about. Come over, find that cook range, and copy those cabinets and flip them over symmetrically. I'm going to return back into the floor plan view, and to create a wall elevation I'm going to use the exact same tool we did on the other wall. I'm going to come down here, use the wall elevation, we'll point and click towards the wall. In this wall elevation, the first thing I notice is that my cabinet countertop is bleeding into the cook range. Let's go ahead and make a change on this cabinet. As I open it up, I'm going to come over to the overhang. I'm going to remove the check mark for uniform, and on the right side let's go ahead and put that at 0. Now the easiest thing to make that change on the other side, you could easily just delete the cabinet and then just use the copy and reflect. It's going to make the change and flip it around so that the left side of the cabinet has a 0 overhang. Now let's place a backsplash. Cabinets can have backsplashes associated with them. If you're going to set maybe a 4-inch or an 18-inch backsplash on your cabinets, there is a setting in your cabinets where you can come in and put the backsplash in here and set the height of it. You can do the same approach with your wall cabinets. I will typically place those backsplashes independently of the cabinets. There is a specific tool for backsplashes that you'll find underneath of the cabinet tool itself. Using the custom backsplash tool, you can click on the wall. It will do its best effort to fill that space with the backsplash. You can always modify this backsplash as you need to. You can customize it. If I were to drag this down, make it a shape, the backsplash tool can also be used to do a click and drag operation. If I were to just click and drag this approximately in this area, right in here, let's go ahead and set the thickness of it by double clicking on it, changing the layers. I'm just going to change the thickness of it to be a 1/2 inch. And then just to make it easy, I'll just use the material off of the cook hood, apply it on there, and you can make the change to that. You can also shape these segments. When you learn how polylines is considered a polyline, it's just a group that you can resize and change the shape. There's a red indicator on the selected edge. Sometimes you can change this and make it a little bit more interesting with that polyline editing tool. To place the dimensions, go ahead and use this NKBA Auto Elevation Dimension tool. These dimensions automatically place. You can clean them up however you'd like. Oftentimes I don't like to repeat the centerline dimension at the top if it's covered from a dimension on the bottom. One of the things that I like to do in cleaning up my elevation views, you'll notice this full height cabinet that we cut through is showing the details of the internal shelves and other face items for that cabinet. Sometimes I will use a crossbox CAD tool and come over and draw a crossbox over something like that so that it cleans it up a little bit. This is a style preference. That CAD box, if your kitchen changes, won't dynamically change if you were to resize a cabinet. If you take a look at my finished wall elevation, I've gone through, cleaned up the dimensions, made some adjustments here. I've used the annotation callouts. You can see a couple of more cross boxes that I've placed for the crown molding and the soffit that I'm going to place here in a minute. And again, you can clean this up and create really your own style depending on what your preference is for your dimensions. Now, one of the final things that I want to do for this wall and the other wall is I want to place a soffit above this area right in here. Let's do that in our floor plan view. You'll find a soffit tool underneath of the cabinets tools. I'm going to come over here, place the initial soffit right in this area. My default fill style for that soffit has an angle hatching in there. Let's go ahead and double click and open up this soffit. And what I want to do in here is go through and make sure that the dimensions are what I'm expecting. On the height, I'm going to probably set this at 6 1/4, 25 inches deep, and then the rest of those settings look fine. Place one more soffit. Go ahead and click in here. And I'll go ahead and pull that soffit to the end of the cabinet run. Again, we'll go ahead and set that also to be 6 1/4. And let's just go ahead and take a look at that in the wall elevation. You can see where that soffit has come in above the cabinets. And then one of the final things that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up the library and I'm going to place one of the islands that I've created. Any of these objects, when you place cabinets, can be blocked together. And in this case, I blocked some together and formed a kitchen island. And I'm going to open that up in my library. You'll see a preview of it. Maybe a little bit difficult to see in the video, but there's a preview of that island. And now I'm just going to simply come over here, click, and place that in my plan. I'll then use the temporary dimension to position that, set it at 42 inches in that direction and maybe 45 inches in this direction. Go back in and take a look at that in our 3D view. And you can see the way that that island has come in. And again, that's just a pre-configured block of stools, cabinets, lighting. All of those components can be added and blocked and added into your library. Now in the floor plan, you'll find another dimension tool that you can use. If I click in the area for the kitchen, you'll see the gray highlight. In my lower edit menu, you'll find a dimension tool to place plan dimensions. Go ahead and place those plan dimensions. And then just like in the wall elevation, you can clean up these dimensions and remove and adjust them as you may see fit. In this case, I may not want a side wall center elevation, and you can adjust these dimensions and move them around. This is a great starting point to have the dimensions. Many times I do like to pull these center lines into the object. Notice that I didn't get one for the refrigerator. You can click on the dimension. You'll notice that there is a little diamond that is near where you click on the dimension. You can pull that into the object. Notice that there is no center line on that particular extension. Pretty easy to solve that. Click on the extension, come down into the lower edit menu, click to mark that as a center line, and then that will highlight that as a center line marker. Since that's not really recognizing that as a refrigerator, I used a cabinet to make it look like a panelized refrigerator. Using this automatic dimension tool is an easy way to place most of your dimensions and then allow you to modify them to create your plan elevation. These different views that I have on the screen, the floor plan view, elevation view, the 3D camera view, all of these views can actually be sent to a layout sheet in the program. And this is where you can set the scale of the drawings with the exception of the 3D perspective views. And then you can arrange these in a format that you feel is presentable. If you take a look at my completed layout sheet for this kitchen, this is a 24 by 36 sheet. I put a couple of rendering options for the kitchen. I put the floor plan, I placed the cabinet schedule, the keynotes, and then the different wall elevations and an island elevation. And this is a matter of preference and how you want to lay this out. Now in the last segment of the video, let's go ahead and take a look at how to create style options for the design. The Style Palette tool in Chief Architect allows you to save configurations for wall cabinets, full height cabinets, base cabinets, the backsplash, countertop, and then room materials, and you can easily apply that to create a room scene with different style looks. Let's take a look at how this works and apply it to the room scene that we've been working on. I have saved a number of style palettes in my library with 5 different options. When you select one of the options, you can apply this in a few different modes. If you look in the far left-hand corner of my screen, you can apply these by room, by floor, by plan, also by object. When you click inside this, I'm using it in floor mode, you can pretty quickly change the look of the entire room by clicking inside. Now if I were to unblock this island, let's just unblock the island, use the unblock command. And let's apply one more option in the room mode. You can see how the room transforms. Again, select the option, click on the room, and make the change. To add items into a style palette, you can come up here, grab a cabinet that you've customized, or group select items you've customized if you wanted to group select the base cabinet and the wall cabinet. There is an Add to Style Palette feature down in the lower Edit menu, and from here you can create a new style palette. You see in the style palette there's the base, the wall. You can then change the properties of what would be applied for this style palette. The little check marks in here indicate what would be transferred and not transferred without a check mark. And then once that style palette is in your library, you can then save that and share that with other designers or store it in your library and use it for future projects. Well, that concludes the Chief Architect Kitchen Remodel Seminar, and thanks for watching the video. Remember, we have several videos available in our video playlist, how-to articles, and a built-in help system to assist in your learning.